Okay, let's get my screen shared. Hmm. Well, let's see if this works the way that I want it to. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Carrie Mocyk. I am one of the instructional designers. I know that Theresa is here. I don't know if Doug is on yet. Oh, there he is. Um,
I am
we have,
here.
sorry, I just couldn't see on my screen. Um, Let me get the screen a little bigger. Okay. So Theresa Gilliard-Cook, Douglas Hemphill, and myself are part of the instructional design team at SUNY Oswego. And we have been working on what we are calling the online course structure. And its purpose is for any faculty that is going to be teaching a course online to use this structure as a means of creating their course so that it follows a lot of the best practices or just good design for students. Things that we're paying attention to was making sure that the navigation was really clear, that it was consistent. It will improve student learning by having a course that's structured in a way that the information is easy to find for students. Um, and so that's something we've been working on. Now, I will fully admit we actually have gotten it to a certain point, and we're trying to figure out what to do with it to finalize it. And I say finalize, but that just means for this version of it because it is kind of a living tool that will continue to evolve as time goes on. But I did want to show it to you, and after I kind of show it through, if you have any questions or feedback, any information like that, please feel free to share. All right, so let's see. Oh, I apologize. I was afraid that was going to happen. All right. Okay, so this is what we've created so far. There's a couple different components here. Um, Eventually, as time goes on, we hope to have some type of faculty course design support to offer a few different resources as far as like Brightspace support, where to find instructional design help, what we can, some services the instructional design can assist you with, the design team can assist you with, things of that nature. It is under development right now because well, our dean once said to us that if you give her more time, we'll make it shorter. And that's how I feel about it right now. So we're working to make it shorter and easier for faculty to access the information that they need without too much fluff in there. So that is going to be the faculty course design support section. Um, so as part of creating this structure, there was a lot of conversation about the start here approach. The start here is going to be the first place that we would like students to go. And there's multiple reasons for that. Now, if we've ever been on a website of any sort and you're trying to, figure out where you're supposed to go first, like let's think about when we first started with Brightspace, you're looking at it, you're trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I create a module? How do I get started in here? Start here just tells you exactly that. This is where you're going to go. What I really like about Start Here is it's a great way to kind of add your instructor voice from the very beginning. This is a more personalized section of the course, and it kind of pulls it away from the course information, which is more of, the stuff that they need to know, but and you want them to get to that point. Using the Start Here can actually be a way to encourage them to review the course information in more detail. So let's get started. We have a couple different I'm going to show you one way, and then at the end, I'm going to show you a different layout and design that we were considering with this. So the welcome to the course will be the first thing that the students go into, and it's going to be a way to orient them to the course. You could have a whole bunch of different information in here. It's really just your words, your welcome, letting them know what to expect in the next things that are coming through as they get started with the course. So I kind of used AI ChatGPT to talk about that. And this version, it embraced building community, diversity, equity, inclusion, RSI, all of those types of things. I don't want you to copy and paste this. I just kind of wanted you to read through it and see what direction you could go as a welcome message to the students. So the first thing they see is as they get started in the course is a message from you telling them, glad you're here. And then the next steps is going to be talking about what they should do within this module. So in this, it's going to be um, viewing the rest of the Start Here module and then going on to the course information and getting started with the icebreaker activity. So planting those seeds with the students right away. I'm going to show this after. All right, so then we have these placeholders for the course overview. It is a chance for you to kind of say in your own words what the course is about. If you have a course overview video created with our academic videographer, Jason High, or if it's something that you've created yourself, this is a place to put that in there. So again, it's kind of your perspective on the course, your way of the students getting to know you right away. So then here is the instructor bio section. Again, if you have the video that's been created, this would be where you would add the video. If you do not have a video, this would be a great place for you to share some more details about who you are, what brought you to Oswego. There's a whole list of different questions different information you could include here, but very personalized from you. This next page is called the Tips and Tricks for Online Learning Success. We know that online students it takes a little bit for them to, kind of wrap their head around a course. It can be a lot of information all at once. So we're trying to encourage them to take a moment to think about how they would set up their schedule to make sure that they're set up for success. So it talks about being realistic about how much time it's going to take. Preview week, looking over the syllabus, getting your textbooks early, planning your time, identify a study space. Do you have good technology, staying connected? And when emailing your instructor or other staff members, using proper grammar, advocating for yourself. So if you know there's something going on, you're having a hard time, you can't disappear in an online course because they don't get the physical presence of you. So this is encouraging the students to advocate, work with their faculty to make sure that they can work through the course successfully. And then also knowing to use your resources, that SUNY Oswego has several different resources. So we thought this was a great way for the students to kind of take that moment to think about what they needed to do for themselves to get them set up so that they could be successful, especially if they're a first-time online student. So this is the next steps. We're encouraging the student to go over to the course information. This is a great place for you to share some relevance. It's a word that Theresa Gilliard-Cook loves, and we talk about it all the time. Students need to know why to read the course information module. Other than that, it's just a folder that's over there that might have some information. This is a great place for you to share a little bit more from your perspective of why you want them to read it. So now we're in the course information folder, modeling the layout and design that we're looking for other modules. We have a course information module overview. This goes a little bit more in detail of explaining what the course information folder is used for. Um, you could add some tasks as far as making sure that they're checking out different sections. Like this is a way, again, you want those students to know what those discussion rubrics what those are, then this is a great place to give them some tasks to complete within the course information folder that you want them to look at. And I added some objectives in here: know where to find technical support, be familiar with the syllabus and class schedule, review the resources available, and then review the policies for the course. So you could customize this to whatever you want. That's the nice thing about this layout, is that you can customize it to what works for you. Moving along in here, we have the course description and objectives. Now, this is different than the course overview. This is more about what the SUNY Oswego course catalog has for a description. It's a high-level view of what your course is about. And this is a placeholder for the course objectives. They can be found in the official course outline. So this is space for those. How to communicate with your professor. Now, this has been one of those things that trying to determine best location for it. As of right now, it's in the course information folder. Why reach out? This is a great place for you to share with students that you want them to tell you if something is going on. Like maybe they found an error, maybe there's something that's not working properly. This is a place to encourage them to reach out to you. And your contact information and how to communicate with you. So course email is preferred by the college. It's found in Brightspace. And so it shares some information that we think would be helpful for students to know. If you have virtual office hours, or when you have virtual office hours, what your login schedule will look like. That you agree to log in at least twice a day, might be in the morning, early evening. This is all good information that students will be looking for. Just lets them know that you are available to them. And then this is also important, the grading timeline. When should they expect it to be done? So you may share some insight if it's a really large project that they complete, that you may say that that one might take a little bit longer to work through. On this next page, we have the course reading and materials. What's the required textbook? If inclusive access is being used, we have a paragraph on that. Open educational resources, if that's being used. Other course materials, if they're going to be required to have a Netflix subscription or whatever it might be. New York Times, the library, all that kind of information. We have contact information for the bookstore, any required software if they need anything for that. And then also talking about how Firefox and Chrome works best. And then a little bit about the productivity software. And again, you'd customize this to what works for your course, what the need is for your course. Course learning activities and evaluation. So this is using placeholder to provide a list of course learning activities. Is it going to be readings, discussions, projects? What's the setup going to be for this course? And then in here we have the evaluation, what they should expect as far as what the criteria will be for assignments, things like that. And then even in here, it breaks it down a little bit further. If you have maybe, a course discussion per week, how many discussions are there? How many points per discussion? What's the total points? How much does this count towards their grade? This is all information that students could be looking for. There are different ways to write this up. We have this version here, but then there's also the expanded one where it talks about the grading criteria for each of these. So this is a discussion area. It talks about information about the discussion, the number, the points, the total percentage, and then also shares the criteria. And so that breaks down all of the different components, different types of assessment types where you would share this information. So it's going to be an instance of use what works for you and delete out the rest. Course grading rubrics. If you are using them, this is where you could include this information. You could link within the course, you could link back to this section over here to share about the rubrics that are being used for the course. So this is something that we've been working on too. It's called our expectations. And it is kind of, again, kind of showing a partnership between students and faculty, what you can expect from me and what I expect from you. I think it's a great way to, show mutual respect between the two of you. And again, you can customize this how you would like. But this talks about being respectful, log into the course every day, um, like all of that kind of information. Be respectful of the peers. Disagreements are normal. It's okay to disagree, but be respectful. All right, so then this was the older version that we had, my expectations. I think the our expectations is a better means of that. This kind of goes back to some of these final pieces that we've been talking about back and forth, trying to figure out the best way to go about it, or a way to go about it. There's multiple ways to accomplish it. So this is something that we came across that we're not sure again on where it belongs, but this is expectations and communications in an online course. And I do like this, but I do think it's a little bit too much at this point. But it talks about general communication, remembering that behind every communication is another human being, be respectful. I think this came out of COVID at the time. And it was used in some of the courses, and we're thinking about a way to incorporate this into the structure some way, but probably not as large of a document as this is. But it does talk about minimizing environmental distractions, get in there early, test your microphone, all that kind of stuff. So some version of that will end up somewhere. And then we go into the student support services. So we have accessibility services, the Title IX reporting, together all peer counseling, some information about that. This is the class policies. So if you have a policy on artificial intelligence, which you probably should, policy for late work, how you're going to handle those types of situations. So very course specific policies that you have for your class. This would be a great place to add those in. And then we get into the academic policies and procedures, the academic integrity. So you would end up wanting to keep one for undergrad. This is college standard, so it's a policy information for undergrad. And then this is for graduate students. So you delete out the one that's not relevant to your course. And then it has the SUNY students online course complaint process. So we do have that available for students too. And then this gets into technical support. We try to offer some reasons why you would reach out to SUNY Online Tech Support. One of the big things, they do have extended hours for students. and faculty, honestly, for both. And they do have chat as an option. That is nice. They have the ability to share screens with the students. So if they're having some technical issues related to internet browsers, this is a great help desk for them. And then we also have the SUNY Oswego help desk, which is working during business hours. Anything that's very SUNY Oswego specific would be helpful here. We do have the technology status page. So if somebody was having a problem getting into system, that is a SUNY Oswego technology status to share what may be happening on campus. And then this is the course syllabus. We have a template here. If you press on this link, it's going to ask you to make a copy, and it is an accessible syllabus that a lot of the course information, folder information is part of this. We do believe that you should have the ability to print out a syllabus for students, so do not rely solely on the course information. But this is your place to grab that. And again, you can use it to what works for your course. Oops, sorry. So the other, if it's a printable one, then it could be added here. Again, customize this to how it works for you. And then this is the course schedule. There's a couple different layouts to consider for this. Um, it's an important component for student success. They rely on it very closely for making sure that they are setting up their time properly to get things done. So it is nice if you want to include any type of information that all the readings and assignments are due on Sunday night at 11:59. Discussions are due Friday night. Any type of, quick information that they can see so they can start planting the seed that this is how they need to plan their week. So then it just talks about what's in the module 1, what the topic is, the start and the end dates, what they should expect for readings, discussions, assignments, tests, and it goes through the different modules. As an alternative, there is the ability to create a table. And it essentially is the same type of information, module 1, what the topic is, what the different assignments, assessments that really should have said, and the due dates that they should expect. So there's a few different ways to go about creating the course schedule, but for online students, they very much rely on it. And again, giving them some type of insight as to the routine of what the structure looks like, of how the course will run, is helpful to the students. We move on to the next steps, and this is an example. Once you review the course information, go to the icebreaker module, introduce yourself, meet your classmates, all that kind of information. It's a great way to build some community with your students. Feel free, you could add a link to your favorite website. It just is encouraging students to try to get to know each other through these icebreaker activities. So the icebreaker activities at a glance, or module at a glance, module overview, whatever it ends up being called. This is kind of continuing on with the conversation of the next steps. Use this placeholder to share the importance of the module, customize it to whatever fits for you. Talks about what the students should complete during this module, introduce yourself, the course information comprehensive check assignment, and the getting to know you SUNY Oswego Bright Space quiz. Now you can do this in any capacity that you want, but we do feel it's really important for the students to have the opportunity to get to learn more about who the other students are in their class, and just get to know each other a little bit more. It also is great to identify and resolve any technical issues that the students are having, since we do have discussions, assignments, and a quiz within this module. So this is a discussion. Take a minute to get to know each other, list of questions, who you are. It really can be customized to whatever works for you, but we did give you a spot to be able to add that discussion. Um, so it talks about like we are all unique. What's something that makes you unforgettable? When do you anticipate working on your course? Are you an early riser? Do you stay up late? When are you most productive with your schoolwork? That could be a good question to ask because the students that are night owls may take note of other night owls. So if there are any issues, they could reach out to each other, knowing that that person is typically a late night person. This is an assignment course information module, contains a lot of helpful information. It's really just the instructions, review the course information module, share 3 specific details you found important or helpful, write your answer in the text box, submit the assignment. It is the purpose of sharing the relevance. Why are we making them do this? To ensure that you've reviewed the course information thoroughly, to become familiar with the submitting assignments. So sharing the why is not a terrible thing. We all, want to know it's not just a waste of time. It's to get to know the tool, get to know the information. And then this is just a short quiz that was created. You can change this up to whatever works for you, but it does ask questions about like where is SUNY Oswego located? Um, we don't have a mascot. What are we known for? So just some different information. Why is this quiz here? Learn a little bit about the SUNY Oswego campus that they're going to school, and well, not the campus, but just SUNY Oswego in general, and get familiar with how the Brightspace quiz tool works. All right, so what we have next is this is the layout that we're suggesting. I did not add a lot of information as far as more discussions and quizzes because I didn't want to mess up the structure for somebody that was going to copy this over, right? So instead, what I did is there's a sample module structure. Um, this is another instance where give us more time, it'll be shorter. But it does talk about like what should be included in your module as far as the layout and design that there should be a module overview if you want to include a checklist, any video lectures, class lectures, PowerPoints, any type of practice along the way, discussions, assignments, quiz, reflections, all that kind of information that might be there. We talk about the overall design, striving to not have the students scroll down several pages, chunking the content into manageable pieces, clarity of instructions for online, really, really important. Whether you're going to use the rubrics, designing with universal design in mind as far as being accessible and inclusive for everyone. So it goes further detail about what all of those could look like, but for now, just know that kind of information is going to be included. We're just trying to figure out, where's the stopping point with it, because it's a lot of information. We recognize that. So this is an overview. This is a module overview. It is a great way to grab this is a good place to add your voice and also possibly grab the student's attention as to what's coming within the module. Just a simple example. Do you ever wonder how business predicts profits, sets prices, or decides if an investment is worth it? This module will provide an introduction as to how that works. And then you give them the following tasks so that they know what they should be doing. Online students very much rely on this structure to make sure that they've caught everything, that they're completing everything that's being asked of them. And then they have learning objectives for the module. There is some conversation on if you're not learning objectives are very helpful. They're really great for us as we're designing online courses, as faculty are designing online courses. Um, there's been a couple articles that we've seen recently about whether or not these students are interested in the learning objectives as much as we need them to be. So there is a way to possibly frame it differently. So if you opt to not share learning objectives, cons consider changing the title to like what to expect, and then reframing it to something like learn how to do this or explore how to do that. So it kind of gives them a heads up of what's coming, what you want them to know by the end of the module, but maybe using a term that they're more willing to relate to and willing to read, to see what's being offered or what the module is going to be about. And this goes into a class lecture. You talk about the importance of the lectures, what you would be saying. I think that a lot of information in online courses. If you've taught the course on if you've taught the course face to face, there's a lot of information that you say in the first 5 minutes of a new day in a classroom. And so some of these class lectures, like this is a great place to kind of share some of that information that may be even different. So you have your lecture, but you also have that additional information that you share, like that personalized perspective of different content. So class lectures could have a few different purposes, but this is a place to add that kind of information. And then if you were to have a PowerPoint, it gives you some guidelines as far as what you should have with PowerPoints, trying to keep them 10 to 15 slides, break them up by content. It's okay to have multiple PowerPoints. Got to recognize that our online students are probably working and multitasking different ways. So creating these bite-sized chunks so that if they only have 20 minutes to be working on their course, that they can be working and successfully looking through, chunked pieces of content instead of something very large that could possibly be overwhelming. It's a great place to add your voice into the PowerPoints. And, lecture notes might be better. It depends on what you are sharing with the students. There's lots of ways to accomplish this goal. Okay, so that is what we have at this time. There is one other thing that we are talking about. This came up last week as we are looking through, just realizing there's a lot of information in here, and trying to determine there's multiple people that will be using this. We're going to have faculty that are brand new. There's going to be faculty that are very seasoned in teaching online. There's going to be faculty that are just looking for this course information folder. So we know all of this. And so we've been trying to figure out like what's going to be the best way to go about sharing this out with everyone. So in this welcome to the course, I'd shown you this way here. This is in the start here. And it is long, so I will acknowledge that. The 2.0, as it was called, sends you to a guide to start here. It would be taking you out to a Google Doc, and it would tell you, it would share the information about what could be part of this start here in the Google Doc. So that is something that we're going to be looking for feedback on as far as what's better. Is it better to delete all of this information out and have it in one location? Or is it better to have just the basics covered within, this yellow section here, and then the guide, which will link properly to the right spot, but it would be a Google Doc that's outside of Brightspace. So that is something that we're open to feedback on. All right, so that is the course structure. Does anyone have any questions about it?
So Carrie, I'll just add some reinforcement here. Sort of 4 points that I have. One, it's fine to duplicate data. If information is really important, it's fine for it to be in more than one spot. Particularly with things like your contact information and your login schedule, that can both be in contact information and it can be in your expectations. Two, there's a lot of really good information in here, but it is for you. So make sure if you do use this that you delete all of the instructional text, and we are working on ways to make that simpler. Pay attention to the boilerplate material. That shouldn't really be changed. That's things like the tech support data and the Title IX stuff and some of those policies. But they should be, even if you don't use our online template, remember they should be in your syllabus. And just to reiterate the last point that Carrie made, this is a living document. We're always working on this. And we really value your feedback. So please let us know what you think, what you like, what you don't like, what you think we might be missing, what you think might not be needed. We're all ears for any sort of feedback you might have. So. And also nice job, Carrie, because she's really spearheaded this, and a lot of this represents a lot of hours of work on her part. So if you do use this, please be appreciative.
So I just want to jump
Go
in.
ahead.
I'm sorry, Carrie. When Carrie was talking a bit about the about course objectives, learning objectives, one of the things she pulled up for me, thank goodness, was a post I saw in one of the groups I follow. And so I just made a copy of it so I can share it out to the group. But it's another way to think about learning objectives, because students don't always read them, and there may be other ways to engage them. So I'm just going to pop this in the chat. Again, it's an informal document. It's just got some information in there that could be some ideas on how
these via email with you.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
might be able to share learning objectives and perhaps find ways to engage your students in discussion about the learning objectives, as opposed to just, the simple format. Here's what you're learning here. This is a great way too to think about the relevance of the learning objectives and engaging students in how they might apply what the content they are learning.
Yeah, and something else that I was thinking about, like we talked about the navigation, you know, Google Drive, many of us use it. You use Teams, you use all that information. Technically, everything you need is inside of Google Drive. But what's the difference between being able to quickly access information or getting lost in documents after documents? And it really comes down to the navigation. Is the information inside the folder that makes sense? Is it titled in a way that you understand that it's related to the topic at hand? Is it, can you work through it? I think of online courses as working through almost like a textbook. You start at the beginning, you have your introduction, you have your content in the middle, you have your assessments, your practice, whatever it might be. But students should be accessing the information from the starting with the introduction all the way to the end of the module, and having it organized in a way where they can just continue to press the next button just as I was, will improve the student's experience. One of the things that I always think about with online students, all students struggle with this, but if you are if you are working full time and you are taking care of loved ones and you have a lot on your plate, you may find yourself at a doctor's office with 20 minutes. And what can I accomplish in that 20 minutes? And so the more information that you can provide to the students to share, like this, this video is 8 minutes long. Just telling them that it's 8 minutes long allows them the opportunity to get that done while they have their 20 minutes. Be able to, get into the content, and then as they're driving home, they can be thinking about the video, like all of these opportunities that they may miss if they don't have the information readily accessible, readily available to them to access and use. So that's one of the things that I think about, with online students, and myself being an online student and most of my work starting at midnight and up until 3, I would have loved to have known other students that were on that same schedule. That would have been really helpful, as a lot of my coursework was project based. And so, just thinking about those type of things. So, those were just different parts of it. But I think the Google Drive is an example that many of us, or my documents, doesn't matter what you're using. When it's organized, you don't mind it because you can find the information you're looking for. But as soon as it starts getting filled, everybody's just, it gets harder. And yes, we can tell the students that the information is there for them. But if it's not in a location that makes sense to, how the course should be structured, it would be, harder to navigate. They could waste valuable time looking for information, instead of being able to actually do something with it.
I feel like that's a shot across the bow on the organization of our own ID shared drive. But to piggyback on what Carrie's saying, one thing to be wary of is the overuse of subfolders. You'll notice that the way that we built this, it is one folder and then one item in that. You can go one folder level deeper. So if you want to have a module and then a folder in a module to group something, that's fine. But there's two things to be aware of. If you go more than one folder deep, so if you, in this screen, if you have your folder on the side and you create a folder in the module and then you create another folder in that, it starts to break Brightspace's navigation. It doesn't show up the way you would expect. And the other thing is any use of folders breaks the next button, because what happens is if you click next and the next thing is a folder, it pulls you back out into the folder view. So you have to click on the next item. So just be conscientious about your use of folders within folders. And if you have to use a folder, try to stick it at the end of the module, because it really gets weird in the navigation for students if you have to go into a folder, which prompts you to click a link, and then you go out of the folder back to the main level, which prompts you to click another link. And if that doesn't make sense, well, you start to get an idea of why the overuse of folders can be a bad thing.
And Theresa, the last thing that I am sorry, I am drawing a blank, but I know that you went to a student panel last Monday. And what did they tell you? I apologize, I don't remember.
So Colt has a student advisory board, and our students on the advisory board did 2 different presentations last week. One, and in each one, they covered different topics. One was AI, and one was something like 11 tips that your students would like you to use, or something like that in those sessions. And I know they're recorded. But there was a couple of things that the students talked about. And number one was the idea of the AI policy. Now, those of us at Oswego, Scott just sent out an email this morning with some ideas on the type of language you might want to include in your syllabus regarding AI. But students really want to know that. And the other piece, which I thought was really interesting, students want to know how you're using AI. in your courses. And again, I think that's fair. For example, one course, the one credit course I teach, which is GST 104 for Oswego people, I used that to help find voice in that course. I had a lot of content, a lot of materials, but I needed to find a way to organize it and basically talk about it in a very friendly way, since I'm teaching the course online. And so in knowing that students want to know that, I will tell my students that's how I'm using it. So that was one piece. The other piece is timeliness of feedback, especially in the situation where students need assignment A to work on assignment B and beyond. So these, again, were some of the things that students talked about in there. Also, there
It
was
was the navigation.
the navigation.
That was a big one.
Yes, thank you, Carrie. So big thing with navigation is our students find it very, very frustrating that every course they go in, the navigation is different. So one of the reasons why and again, the literature is telling us that too, because students do struggle with navigation and wayfinding in a course. And knowing that at SUNY Oswego, every time you go into a course, it will have a similar structure. So I know where to find my printable syllabus. I know where to find my discussion forums. I know where to find my assessments and my assignments and my quizzes, and all of that will just make it so much easier. So this was another reason why we felt this was so critical to create this course structure. And for those of you that may have been, have worked with us one-on-one at one point, we always did provide a course structure, but things have changed. But again, I think it's really important that we think about what our students need and how we can set them up for success in their fully online courses. And especially since we have more and more programs going fully online, this is going to be more critical to our students, especially since we are accepting true freshmen. So we're looking at 16, 17, 18-year-olds now being accepted into our fully online programs. And for some of them, they've not had experience in online, or they haven't had the best experience in online learning.
Okay, so I think that is all the time we have. If anyone is interested in this structure, I think for Oswego people, emailing help@oswego.edu and asking for instructional design support related to the structure, one of us will reach out and respond to that help desk ticket. For anyone else, my name is on there, Carrie, Mocyk, Theresa, Gilliard-Cook, any of us. If you're outside of SUNY Oswego, then you could reach out to one of us. It's carrie.mocyk@oswego.edu. Same thing with Doug. Theresa, how is your site? It's Theresa dot, right? Yeah. There it is. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.